The sun was setting behind the desert hills, painting the sky in colors of gold and orange. In the small town of Red Hollow, Nevada, life was simple. People knew each other, and evenings were quiet except for the sound of the wind rolling over the sand. 8-year-old Eli Carter was a quiet boy who loved two things: his little red toy robot and watching the stars. Every evening after dinner, he would sit near the wooden fence behind his house waiting for the first star to appear. His father often told him that every star might be a home for someone far away, and Eli liked to believe that. One windy evening, Eli chased his ball down the dirt road that led to the desert's edge. The ball rolled farther than usual, bouncing over dry bushes and stones until it disappeared behind a small sand dune. Eli ran after it, his shoes kicking up tiny clouds of dust. When he reached the top of the dune, he froze. There, hidden behind the slope, was something he had never seen before. It looked like a small silver pod half buried in the sand. It wasn't a car and it wasn't a plane. It was smooth and round, shining faintly even in the dim light. A thin trail of smoke rose from one side of it. Eli's heart started to beat fast, but curiosity pulled him closer. He stepped carefully, his ball forgotten. As he got near, he heard a soft humming sound, almost like a lullaby mixed with electricity. Then something moved inside the pod. Eli stopped and held his breath. A small panel on the side of the craft opened, and light spilled out. For a second, he thought he saw a shadow move. Slowly from the glowing doorway stepped a small figure. It was a child, but not a human one. The creature was about his height, thin and delicate, with light blue skin that shimmered faintly under the desert glow. Its eyes were large and round, glowing softly like the moon. It wore a silver outfit that looked torn in places. The little being looked frightened and confused, its eyes scanning the desert, then stopping on Eli. Both stood silently, staring at each other. Eli's first thought was to run. His legs felt weak and his hands trembled. But then he noticed something. The alien child was shaking too. It didn't look dangerous. It looked lonely. Its expression wasn't angry or strange. It was sad, almost like it wanted someone to understand. Eli slowly raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. "Hey," he said quietly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." The alien tilted its head as if trying to understand the sound of Eli's voice. It made a soft humming noise back, gentle and unsure. Eli took a small step forward, his eyes kind and curious. He looked down at his hands, then at the toy robot he always carried in his pocket. It was old, with a missing arm, but it was his favorite. He thought for a moment, then smiled. Without saying a word, he took the toy out and placed it carefully on the sand between them. The alien child looked at it, puzzled. Its glowing eyes blinked twice. Then it bent down slowly and picked it up. The moment its fingers touched the toy, its eyes glowed brighter. For the first time, it made a soft sound, almost like laughter, though it echoed strangely in the quiet air. Eli laughed too. "You like it, huh?" he said. The alien didn't understand the words, but it seemed to understand the feeling. It held the toy close to its chest like something precious. The tension in the air disappeared. For a few minutes, they just stood there under the growing night sky. The stars had begun to appear one by one. The alien looked up at them and pointed to the brightest one in the sky. Eli followed its gaze. "That's your home?" he asked. The alien nodded slowly. Its eyes dimmed a little, and Eli realized it was homesick. It must have come from far away, maybe lost or stranded. Eli wanted to help, but he didn't know how. "Don't worry," he said softly. "You're not alone anymore." He sat down in the sand, and after a pause, the alien sat too. The cool desert wind brushed past them, and the silence between them felt calm, not strange. It was like two children from different worlds had somehow found a way to understand each other without words. As the night grew darker, Eli heard a distant voice calling his name. It was his mother. He stood up, brushing sand from his clothes. The alien looked at him with concern, clutching the red toy robot tightly. Eli smiled and pointed toward the town. "I have to go," he said softly. "I'll come back tomorrow, promise." The alien blinked and tilted its head again, then touched its small hand to its chest as if to say thank you. The light from its eyes shimmered softly as Eli turned to leave. He took one last look over his shoulder. The alien child stood near the craft, watching him, still holding the toy close. Eli ran back home, his heart racing, not from fear but from excitement. He wanted to tell his parents what he'd seen. When he reached the porch, his mother was waiting. "Where have you been, Eli?" she asked, worried. "In the desert," he said breathlessly. "I met someone," his father chuckled. "You and your stories again?" Eli smiled but didn't argue. He knew they wouldn't believe him, not yet. But he would prove it tomorrow. That night, as he lay in bed, Eli couldn't sleep. He stared out the window at the stars, wondering which one was the alien's home. He imagined how scared the little creature must feel, being so far from everything familiar. He promised himself he'd go back and help it fix its craft no matter what. He didn't know that his small act of kindness, offering a broken toy to a lonely alien, would soon change his life forever. Because far beyond the sky, in the endless darkness of space, a signal had already been sent, and someone or something had received it. The next morning, Eli woke up earlier than usual. The sky outside was painted in shades of soft pink and gold. He could still feel the excitement from last night rushing through him. He had seen something unbelievable, a real alien child. As he got ready, he kept thinking about the small silver craft, the quiet hum it made, and the way the little alien held his toy robot as if it were the most important thing in the world. During breakfast, Eli tried to tell his parents again. "Mom, Dad, I really saw it. There's something in the desert and a small ship and a kid who's not from here." His father smiled, sipping his coffee. "Maybe it was a dream, son. You've been reading too many space comics." Eli frowned. "It wasn't a dream." He was scared. "I gave him my robot, remember?" "The red one." His mother looked up from the stove. "Your robot? Maybe you dropped it somewhere. We'll find it later." Eli sighed. He knew they didn't believe him. But deep inside, he felt the truth stronger than ever. As soon as he could, Eli packed a small backpack, some sandwiches, an apple, a bottle of water, and a flashlight. He didn't want the alien to be hungry or thirsty. He told his parents he was going out to play and ran toward the desert path. The morning air was cool and the ground still held the chill of night. When he reached the sand dunes, the silver craft was still there, half buried and quiet. Eli's heart raced. "Hey, it's me!" he called softly. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the door on the side of the ship opened with a gentle hiss. The little alien stepped out slowly. It still looked tired, but its eyes brightened when it saw Eli. And there it was, Eli's red toy robot, held carefully in its small blue hands. Eli grinned. "You kept it." The alien tilted its head, made a soft sound, and reached out to touch Eli's shoulder. It felt warm, almost like a handshake without words. Eli opened his bag and showed the alien the food and water. He took out the apple first, holding it up. "Food," he said clearly. He took a small bite, then offered it. The alien watched, curious. After a moment, it tried a tiny bite too. Its eyes widened, maybe in surprise at the taste. Eli laughed. "Yeah, it's good, right?" The two sat near the craft while Eli talked and the alien listened. Of course, the alien didn't understand human words, but it seemed to understand feelings. When Eli pointed at the stars drawn in the sand and said home, the alien nodded sadly. Then it pressed a few buttons on a small device on its wrist. Suddenly, a small blue light projected from it, showing floating images in the air, glowing pictures that looked like a faraway world. Eli gasped. There were tall silver towers, blue rivers that shone like glass, and skies filled with strange ships moving in perfect lines. Then a new image appeared, the alien's family. There were taller beings with the same glowing eyes, standing together proudly, dressed in shining silver armor. The little alien pointed to them, then touched its chest as if saying, "That's my family." Eli's heart sank. He could see how much it missed home. "You'll go back soon," he said softly, though he wasn't sure how. "I'll help you, promise." Suddenly, the air around them grew colder. The wind picked up, blowing sand across the ground. The alien looked up quickly, its eyes flickering. It pressed a few buttons on its device again, and strange symbols glowed briefly before fading. Eli noticed a small spark coming from the ship, like it was trying to start but couldn't. Maybe it was damaged worse than it looked. Then came the sound, faint but strange, a deep distant hum like something far away in the sky. Eli turned around, squinting toward the horizon. There was nothing visible, only the clear morning sky. But the alien tensed, as if listening to something Eli couldn't hear. It looked frightened again. Eli wanted to ask what was wrong, but before he could, the sound stopped. Silence filled the desert again, and the alien relaxed slightly. It looked at Eli and gave a small, tired smile, or at least something that looked like one. As the sun climbed higher, Eli knew he had to head home before his parents noticed he was gone. He pointed at himself and said, "Tomorrow." Then he pointed at the alien and the ground as if to say he would come back. The alien nodded and touched its hand to its chest again, the same way as before. When Eli returned to town, everything seemed normal, but something strange was happening. People were whispering. His neighbor, Mr. Turner, was telling everyone that he saw lights in the sky during the night. Another farmer said his animals had been restless, making noise for hours. Even the sheriff's car had driven out near the desert early that morning, leaving tire tracks in the dust. Eli listened quietly, his heart pounding. Could it be that someone else had noticed the alien ship? He didn't want anyone to find it before he could help. That afternoon, as he sat on his porch, he heard two men talking near the road. "Strangest thing I've ever seen," one said. "Some kind of reflection out in the dunes. Might be a crashed drone. Or maybe one of those secret military things," the other man replied. "They'll be here soon to check." Eli felt nervous. If the grown-ups found the ship, they might take the alien away, or worse, hurt it without understanding. He couldn't let that happen. That night he sneaked out of his house again, holding his flashlight and a small blanket. The desert was quiet, the sky glittering with stars. When he reached the ship, he saw the alien sitting outside, holding the toy robot and looking at the sky. It looked lonely, just like before. Eli sat down beside it, wrapping the blanket around its shoulders. "Don't worry," he whispered. "You'll be safe here. I'll make sure no one finds you." The alien looked at him and blinked slowly, like it understood. For a long time they sat together under the stars, two children from different worlds, sharing silence and friendship. The desert wind hummed softly around them, and the red toy robot gleamed faintly under the moonlight. But somewhere high above, far beyond the stars, a signal was moving through space, faster than light, carrying a message from the alien's device. A message that said, "Found, safe, help needed," and out there, something powerful had received it. Eli had no idea that by the next night, everything in Red Hollow, and maybe the whole world, would change. The next day passed slowly for Eli. Every minute at school felt longer than the last. He couldn't stop thinking about his alien friend out in the desert, sitting near that broken ship waiting. The teacher's voice faded into the background as he stared out the window, imagining the glowing eyes and soft hum of the craft. When the final bell rang, Eli ran straight home. He grabbed his backpack, stuffed in some batteries, water, and a small flashlight, and took off toward the desert before the sun began to set. The desert looked different in the evening light. The wind had drawn new lines across the sand, and the sky was turning purple and gold. Eli climbed the familiar dune, his shoes sinking in the soft ground. When he reached the top, he saw it, the small silver ship still there, half buried but glowing faintly as if alive. The alien child was sitting beside it, holding the little red robot close. When it saw Eli, its face brightened. It stood up quickly and waved its small hand, making a soft sound that echoed gently through the air. Eli smiled and ran the rest of the way. "I told you I'd come back," he said. The alien didn't understand the words, but it seemed to understand the feeling. Eli noticed something new this time. A small piece of the ship had been removed, and several shining parts were laid out on the sand, as if the alien had been trying to fix it. The control panel inside was flickering, sending out tiny blue sparks. "You're trying to make it fly again?" Eli asked softly. The alien nodded, tapping its wrist device. A small light appeared, showing symbols Eli couldn't read, but one looked like a broken starship. Then another image appeared, a group of tall figures wearing armor. The alien pointed to them, then to the sky. Eli understood. "Your family. They're coming for you." The alien nodded again, but looked worried. It touched the damaged panel on the ship and then pressed its hand to its chest. Eli realized what it meant. It couldn't send a signal strong enough to reach them. "Don't worry," Eli said. "You'll see them soon. I promise." He didn't know how, but he meant it. As the sun disappeared behind the hills, the air grew cold. The desert was quiet except for the soft sound of the wind. Eli sat down beside the alien. They shared one of his sandwiches. Though the alien didn't eat much, it just seemed happy that Eli offered. Then suddenly, something strange happened. A deep hum rolled across the sky, low and powerful like thunder that never ended. Eli looked up, but there were no clouds, no airplanes, Just a glowing streak of light, faint but moving slowly across the stars. The alien froze, its eyes glowing brighter. It stood up quickly and stared toward the sky, its small hand trembling. Eli felt his chest tighten. "What is it?" he whispered. The alien didn't answer. It couldn't. But Eli saw fear in its glowing eyes. It tapped its wrist device again and pressed a few buttons. The ship made a soft sound as if trying to wake up. Blue light flickered through the sand, spreading in thin lines like veins of energy. Then, as quickly as it began, the light in the sky vanished. Silence returned, heavier than before. Eli could hear his own heartbeat. The alien stood very still for a long time, its head tilted upward as if listening to something far away. Then it slowly sat back down, hugging the red toy robot tightly to its chest. Eli placed a hand on its shoulder. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're not alone." The alien looked at him, and for the first time a small tear, shimmering like liquid silver, rolled down its cheek. Eli didn't know what to say. He just sat beside it quietly while the stars filled the sky. After a while, Eli saw lights on the far edge of the desert, not in the sky this time, but on the ground. Headlights, trucks. He frowned. Uh-oh. He knew what that meant. The military must have found something. Maybe they'd picked up the same signal the alien had sent. He could see the dust rising from the moving vehicles, their bright beams sweeping across the dunes. "We have to hide," Eli whispered. He grabbed the alien's hand and pulled it toward the ship. They ducked behind it, crouching low. The alien's glow dimmed as if it understood the danger. The trucks came closer, their engines humming in the distance. Eli could hear voices carried by the wind. "Looks like some kind of crash site. Keep your lights low. Command wants photos first." Eli held his breath. The alien squeezed his hand tightly. Then one of the soldiers pointed a light toward their direction. The beam came closer, closer, until it stopped right on the half-buried ship. Eli's heart pounded. The alien pressed its wrist device again, and a faint shimmer spread around them, like invisible glass. The soldier's flashlight beam seemed to bend around them instead of hitting them directly. It was as if they were hidden inside a bubble of air. "Nothing here," one soldier said finally. "Probably just a reflection off the rocks." The trucks moved on. Their voices faded into the distance. Eli let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The alien looked at him and gave a small, thankful nod. The shimmer faded slowly and the night became calm again. After a long silence, Eli said softly, "They're going to keep looking. We can't let them find you." The alien touched its chest again, then pointed toward the stars. It was clear what it wanted. It needed to call for help before it was too late. "Then we'll find a way," Eli said. He didn't know how, but he meant every word. The alien reached into the ship and pulled out a small crystal that pulsed with a blue glow. It placed the crystal in Eli's hands. For a moment, the crystal grew warm, and Eli saw a flash of images in his mind. Tall warriors, glowing ships, and a planet bathed in silver light. He could feel their strength and their sadness, their worry for the child. The alien looked at him with hope in its eyes. Eli understood. The crystal was a signal key, a way to reach home. He gave it back gently. "Let's do this together," he said. The alien placed the crystal back into the ship's panel and pressed its hand against the controls. The blue light grew brighter, stronger, and began to shoot upward, like a beam reaching for the stars. Eli stepped back, shielding his eyes as the entire dune glowed with soft blue light. The beam disappeared into the sky, and for a few seconds everything went quiet again. Then the alien looked up, its eyes wide and bright. Eli followed its gaze. Far above them, one of the stars seemed to move, growing larger, brighter, like it was coming closer. Then another, and another. The sky filled with glowing points of light, all moving toward Earth in perfect formation. Eli's heart pounded with awe and fear. "What did you do?" he whispered. The alien turned to him, holding the toy robot tightly, and softly made a sound that almost sounded like joy. Above them, the stars burned brighter. The sky was changing. Something was coming, and Eli could feel it. The air itself trembling as if the world was about to witness something no human had ever seen before. The night sky over Red Hollow had never looked like this before. Stars were no longer still, they were moving. What first looked like shooting stars soon became clear streaks of blue light, spreading across the heavens in graceful lines. The air began to hum softly, a low sound that made the sand tremble. Eli stood frozen beside the small silver ship, staring upward. "They're coming," he whispered. His voice was full of both awe and fear. Beside him, the alien child's glowing eyes reflected the light from the sky. It clutched the red toy robot tightly, its small hands trembling, but not from fear this time. Its whole face lit up with hope, the kind Eli had never seen before. The lights in the sky grew brighter, larger, until the entire desert shimmered under a strange blue glow. The sound deepened like 1,000 soft drums beating far away. Then suddenly the light stopped moving and hovered silently over the sand. Eli counted at least a dozen massive shapes hidden in the glow, each one a ship, silver and smooth, floating just above the dunes. A warm wind rushed over him, making his hair stand on end. The alien child took a step forward, raising its hand as if calling to them. And then, from the ship's beams of soft white light shone down, reaching the ground. The sand swirled inside the light as tall figures began to appear, hundreds of them. Eli gasped. They looked like living statues made of silver and steel. Each one stood tall and strong, with armor that shimmered in the blue light. Their faces were calm but serious, their eyes glowing faintly like the alien child's. There weren't just a few, there were hundreds, stretching across the dunes in perfect lines, silent and still. 500 warriors had arrived. The air around Eli buzzed with power, yet it wasn't frightening. There was no anger or threat in their presence, only strength and purpose. The alien child ran forward a few steps and stopped, turning back to look at Eli. Then bravely, it stepped fully into the open, facing the tall figures. Eli hesitated but followed. The sand crunched beneath his shoes, and the light from the ships cast long shadows behind him. The largest of the warriors, taller than all the rest, stepped forward. Its armor gleamed brighter than the others, and a faint blue symbol glowed on its chest. The leader's eyes fixed on the alien child first. For a long, silent moment, no one moved. Then the leader slowly knelt down on one knee before the small child, lowering its head in respect. Eli's breath caught in his throat. The other warriors, one by one, followed their leader's gesture, 500 shining figures kneeling in perfect unison across the desert. The ground shimmered with their light. The alien child made a soft sound like a greeting. The leader replied in a low, melodic tone that vibrated through the air, but didn't sound like any language Eli had ever heard. The words weren't words at all, they were feelings flowing gently between them like waves of sound and light. The alien child turned to Eli, still holding the toy robot. Its small face was full of joy and gratitude. It walked toward the leader and showed the toy, placing it gently in its hands. The leader looked at it, silent for a moment. Then something unexpected happened. The leader turned toward Eli. Its glowing eyes met his. Slowly it stood and walked forward until it was only a few feet away from him. Eli's legs felt weak. He wanted to step back, but somehow he couldn't move. The warrior stopped, then lowered itself slightly, kneeling again, but this time to him. The desert went completely silent. The wind stopped. Even the stars seemed to pause. Eli didn't understand what was happening until the leader reached out a large, shining hand and placed something in his palm. It was small, warm, and glowing softly. A silver emblem shaped like a star surrounded by a ring of light. It pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. Eli stared at it in amazement. "What is this?" he whispered. The leader's voice echoed softly inside his mind, not in words, but in meaning. "A bond of kindness, a bridge between our worlds." Eli felt a warmth spread through him like sunlight filling his chest. The alien child stood beside him, smiling shyly, its eyes bright with happiness. Then the leader looked at the small child again. A soft hum passed through the air and a faint beam of light surrounded it, lifting it gently off the ground. Eli took a step forward, but the alien reached out and touched his hand one last time. It didn't need to speak. The touch said everything: thank you, goodbye, and friendship all at once. The beam grew brighter, carrying the child upward toward one of the hovering ships. Eli watched, his heart pounding. He wanted to wave, but his throat tightened. The ship's doors opened silently, and the child disappeared inside. Then the leader and the rest of the warriors stood once again. Their armor shimmered as if filled with the light of stars. Together they raised their hands toward the sky. A sound filled the air, low and beautiful, like a chorus of wind and music blending together. The ground beneath Eli's feet vibrated, not from force but from energy, calm and peaceful. Slowly, one by one, the warriors began to rise. The light beams lifted them off the sand, carrying them upward toward the glowing ships. The leader was the last to leave. Before it rose, it gave Eli a small nod of respect, an unspoken promise that they would never forget what he had done. As the leader ascended, the light around the desert began to fade. The blue glow melted back into the night sky, and the ships slowly drifted higher until they became distant stars once again. The humming faded. The wind returned. When Eli finally looked around, he realized the desert was empty again. There were no footprints, no machines, no sign of the 500 shining warriors, only the faint ring of glass-like sand where they had stood. In his palm, the silver emblem still glowed faintly. It felt alive, beating softly like a tiny heart. He closed his fingers around it and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, his friend was safe, and an entire world knew that humanity could be kind. The silence of the desert felt peaceful, not lonely. The air still carried the faintest echo of that sound, the music of light fading into space. Eli whispered softly, "Goodbye." A soft breeze swept across the sand, carrying the word into the night. The stars shimmered as if answering him. He stood there for a long time, the cool wind brushing against his face, the glowing emblem safe in his hand. And though he didn't know it yet, that night, the night the warriors came, would be remembered forever as the moment when a single act of kindness connected two worlds. The next morning, the desert was calm again. The sky was a soft blue, and the wind moved gently over the sand, whispering through the dry bushes. But something had changed. There was a strange stillness in the air, almost like the desert itself remembered what had happened the night before. Eli stood at the edge of the dunes, staring at the wide circle of glassy sand where the alien ships had been. The sunlight reflected off it, making it shimmer like a mirror. He held the silver emblem tightly in his hand. It was warm, glowing faintly as if it carried a piece of the night sky within it. No one else knew what he had seen. To everyone in town, it was just another quiet morning in Red Hollow. But to Eli, the world felt different now, bigger, kinder, and full of mysteries he couldn't explain. When he reached home, his parents were sitting at the breakfast table, looking worried. His father folded his newspaper and said, "Son, people have been talking. They say strange lights were seen out by the desert last night. Do you know anything about that?" Eli paused. For a moment, he thought about telling them everything. The ship, the alien child, the 500 warriors. But he knew they wouldn't believe him. Maybe it was better to keep it a secret, at least for now. He shook his head gently. "No, Dad, I just watched the stars for a bit. Maybe people just saw meteors." His mother smiled softly, though her eyes still looked concerned. "You always were our little stargazer," she said, patting his shoulder. "Be careful, okay?" Eli nodded, hiding the emblem inside his pocket. For the next few days, the town was filled with rumors. Some said the military had come and found a crashed satellite. Others claimed it was a weather experiment gone wrong. A few old folks swore it was something not from this world, but no one had proof. When the news reporters came, they found nothing. No ships, no tracks, not even a burn mark in the sand. But Eli knew. He had seen it all with his own eyes. At night, he often sat by his window, holding the glowing emblem and the memory of his alien friend close. The toy robot he had given away was gone, but he didn't miss it. Somehow he felt it was right where it was meant to be, in the hands of someone far away who would never forget him. Years passed. The memory of the lights faded from people's minds, becoming a local legend whispered by travelers and told around campfires. But for Eli, it was never just a story. It was a part of him. As he grew older, Eli's curiosity about the stars only deepened. He spent hours reading books about space, about planets and galaxies, about radio waves and communication signals. His friends liked video games and sports, but Eli liked the quiet hum of telescopes and the soft glow of data screens. He wanted to understand the universe, the same universe that had once touched his life so directly. When he turned 18, he left Red Hollow to study science. He went to a big city far from the desert, carrying the silver emblem with him wherever he went. It became his secret source of courage. Whenever he felt lost or unsure, he would take it out, feel its gentle warmth, and remember that even in a big, endless universe, kindness mattered. Eli studied hard, learning everything he could about astronomy and communication systems. His professors admired his dedication. He built small radio devices trying to catch signals from space. Sometimes he worked late into the night staring at the screens, just hoping to see something familiar. One quiet night, years later, as he sat alone in the observatory, a faint signal blinked on his monitor. It was soft and rhythmic like a pulse. Not noise, not static, something structured. Eli's heart started racing. He quickly checked the coordinates. The signal wasn't from Earth, it was coming from deep space. He leaned closer. The rhythm of the signal looked almost like a pattern. Then suddenly the small silver emblem he kept on his desk began to glow brighter. For a moment, Eli's entire office filled with soft blue light. He froze, staring. The glow pulsed in the same rhythm as the signal. Eli smiled slowly. "It's you," he whispered. The pulse continued for a few minutes, then faded away, leaving the room dark again. The emblem dimmed, returning to its usual soft glow. But Eli didn't need more proof. He knew who it was. His friend somewhere across the stars had reached out. He sat back in his chair, his eyes filling with quiet joy. The years between them, the distance between worlds, it all disappeared for that one moment. From that day on, Eli dedicated his life to building ways to connect humanity with the stars. He worked with scientists and engineers, creating new systems that could listen deeper and send signals farther than ever before. When people asked what inspired him, he always said, "A simple act of kindness." He never told the full story, but those who met him felt there was something special in his eyes, a calmness, as if he had seen something that gave him faith in the goodness of both humans and whatever else was out there. One evening, many years later, Eli returned to Red Hollow. The town hadn't changed much. The old gas station still stood by the road, and the same dusty wind moved through the streets. He drove out to the desert, the place where it had all begun. The glassy ring of sand was still there, though smaller now, partly covered by dust and grass. He sat down at the center of it, feeling the cool sand under his hands. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. He took out the silver emblem. It glowed softly, as warm as ever. Eli looked up at the first star appearing in the sky and smiled. "I hope you're happy up there," he whispered. "You changed my life, you know." A faint breeze brushed past him, gentle and warm, almost like a whisper. He closed his eyes and listened. It felt like the desert itself was answering. When he opened his eyes again, something small glimmered in the sand, a tiny object, half buried near his feet. He reached down and picked it up. It was old and dusty, but he knew it instantly. His red toy robot. For a moment he just stared at it, too surprised to speak. The paint was faded, but it was definitely his. Somehow, impossibly, it had found its way back to him. Eli laughed softly, his eyes shining with wonder. He held the toy in one hand and the emblem in the other. Above him, the stars were brighter than ever, filling the sky with their endless light. He knew then that friendship never really ended, not even across galaxies. A small act of kindness shared between two children from different worlds had created something eternal. As the night deepened, Eli sat quietly, watching the stars. Somewhere far away, he knew his friend was looking at the same sky. And maybe, just maybe, the universe smiled too.